Hello, everyone. Just welcome back to another webinar from Intentwise. Today, we're going to talk about strategies around data that are relevant for brands to just make the most out of a ton of e-commerce data that has been shared by platforms like Amazon. I'll pause in between and perhaps take questions along the way, and also we'll save some time at the end. Just quick agenda. In prior webinars, I've talked about the different data sources Amazon has opened up. We won't spend a ton of time there, but I do want to do a quick recap and put everything in that context. Use cases and questions that potentially can be answered from all that data. What gets in the way for brands to make the most out of the data, and how do you address those challenges and really accelerate data strategy, or in simple terms, get answers to a ton of your critical questions. So that's the agenda for today. You might have seen this slide before, but here's a quick view of Amazon's overall footprint. On the left is sponsored ads and DSP. On the right are all the measurement tools that they've made available: Marketing Cloud, Stream, Rapid Retail Analytics, Seller Partner API, Amazon Attribution. I won't go too much into each of these because we have covered those in previous webinars. But we do have a different framing for each of these data sets, and how do you actually collect this data? And there's about 4 buckets that we could place all these data sources into. One is batch mode of data availability, which is the stuff you get from the seller central, the vendor central, you download in batch mode. And then you've got the near real-time data sets like Marketing Stream, which centers around advertising data, and then Rapid Retail Analytics, which is a lot of retail metrics like traffic, inventory, sales. I say near real-time because you get data within the hour. Now, the way you integrate to get that data set is very different from the way you integrate to get the batch data sets, which the batch data sets we've been used to for quite some time, right? And then you've got this third thing called Amazon Marketing Cloud, which is what I'd like to call a queryable data set. Like you probe, you ask questions, you extract data out. It isn't really technically a data source, but it is certainly a source of answers to your question. And then the fourth bucket, which RPA stands for robotic process automation. This is the stuff that people go get digital shelf data, share of voice data, going and capturing search result data to understand organic ranking, content quality, badging, so on and so forth. So those are the 4 ways of collecting and getting your data, right, from Amazon. Now the question is, with all the data being available, how is this valuable? How do you activate and get the most insights out of this? We think of this in 3. When I think about use cases and questions, I like to put them in 3 broad buckets. There's a whole operational bucket where really this is meant for you to get a good understanding of the business, right? Things include, and I've got examples here, things include time series data or weekly, daily, monthly trending of, or year-over-year trending of ACOS versus TACOS versus ad spend, revenue, table stakes, but things you need to have front and center to monitor the business effectively. I've got, and then there's profitability, and we'll talk more about profitability, especially in these times. A deep understanding of profitability has become super important. But profitability metrics, or aligning ad spend with, let's say, inventory levels, so on and so forth. So that's under the operational bucket. The diagnostic bucket, another word I have for diagnostics is just anxiety-causing things, right? So you could have sales, decline, or an ACOS uptick. Suddenly, a particular bestseller of yours has just dramatically dropped off. These are all things that happen that you want to go probe and get answers for as quickly as possible. And I put that under the bucket of diagnostics. It's also something that perhaps gives you sleepless nights if you don't have a good process in place to address those questions. And then last but not least, the strategic questions that have long-term implications, questions that potentially could become ways of differentiating your business. And examples there are obviously customer lifetime value, which Again, I know a lot of brands out there clamor to understand that well, repeat purchase behaviors. And on a place like Amazon and these days Walmart too, competition, right? Unlike the traditional world of like physical stores where you can literally see who your competition is, on Amazon, competition changes all the time, especially at the product level. How do you keep track of that? And then the age-old question about incrementality. Am I spending my ad dollars in a way that's driving incremental customer acquisition and sales? So these are just examples of questions that you can answer with all those data sets that have been available, made it available. And one thing I'll point out is that we'll talk more about data strategy, but there is nothing more important than you having a list of critical questions framed up if you don't already have one. It is really important that you have it. And then that can, perhaps the single most important step you can take in framing framing a list of questions, because that informs a lot of decisions you make downstream when it comes to data strategy. Now that let's just for a moment assume that you're clear on the questions that you want to get answered, you're clear on what's important strategically, you're clear on what are some areas where you don't have great answers coming through from the data. Let's just peel the layers and understand, when it comes to automating things around data, where does time really go? Because without an understanding of this, it is really hard to go figure out how to solve for these and have an effective data strategy. So the way we see it, there's broadly 4 buckets of time and resource consumption. And those 4 buckets are: 1, just collection and owning of your data. And by the way, here's another point that if you've heard me talk about data, you've heard me reiterate this many times over. Many brands out there today do not own their data, and that will put them in a significant disadvantage over a period of time. So collecting and owning of data, and we just talked about all the different data sources that are available, and each one requires a different technical infrastructure to go collect the data. But that takes time, right? And then the second slice of time is, let's say you have collected the data, you still need to enrich it, augment it. For example, let's go back to the example of profitability, and we'll talk about it more. You want to ingest your unit cost data into the data you've already collected to get an accurate view of profitability. You want to better organize the data so that your dashboards you have built on top of the source data or the raw data actually load fast. So there's just a number of reasons why you want to enrich and organize the data. If you're a brand in multiple geographies, you want to have currency conversion data handy so that you can normalize performance metrics. So all that goes into the slice called enrich and organize. I often find folks underestimating how long that takes and how much effort is involved. And then the third slice is just visualizing and analyzing the data. And when it comes to visualization, somebody has to sit and envision and say, look, here's the dashboard I want. Here's the metrics I want to see. And then it can be built appropriately. So that takes time as well. Or when it comes to analysis, ad hoc analysis, we just got past Turkey 5. Sorry, it was not called Turkey 5, it's Turkey 11. But you're going to sit and analyze performance, right? What happened this Turkey 5 versus last, like, all the change drivers. So that's another slice of time. And finally, action. How do you train your internal users to use the dashboards that have been built? What actions do you take? Because until that happens, you've got zero value coming from the data, right? So these are the 4 slices of time that go into turning that raw data into something useful, something actionable. And I'll make this very real with a couple of use cases as well. But any questions so far on this? By the way, there's a Q&A box. Just fire away questions. I'll take them as I go along. I'll also save some time at the end to take more questions. But let's just dig further into with a particular use case. So let's talk about product level profitability and constructing a view that is reliable, that is easy for you to further drill down and action on. What is involved in constructing a reliable and accurate product level profitability view? Well, on the collection side, you've got data that you need to collect from sponsored ads and DSP to get ad spend data. If you're a 1P brand, vendor sales data from Vendor Central, or sales and settlement data from Seller Central. There's just a long list of things that you have to have and put in place. And then the second thing is, once you have that data, you have to ingest it with your product unit costs, without which you'll have no idea of profitability. Or you have to ingest that data with your own grouping of products. And then the third thing is, like, how do you actually visualize? What kind of drill downs do you have in place? And from an analysis perspective, how do you identify those products that you want to push or pull back from ads? That's just an example based on profitability. And then last but not least, how do you align in terms of actions? Either it's alignment of advertising with profitability, or alignment or looking at profitability and making some choices in your supply chain to help with margins, or whatever those choices are. So that's just a sequence of things that just have to happen in constructing a product level profitability view. And I'll actually show you as an example something we have built for folks, just to give you a sense for the complexity. But yeah, here's a quick view of product level profitability by ASIN. You've got total sales, ad data, fees, sponsored brand costs, which by the way is not at a product level, which adds some level of complexity, getting to a profit view, and all these drill downs, whether it's by product groups, you can drill down by ASIN, SKUs, so on and so forth. This is an example of a product level profitability view that can be constructed, but you have to address all of these things. Right? By the way, later in the presentation, I will walk you through what is it that we are doing to dramatically accelerate the ability to get to those views and insights. Here's another example. Like, we all desire to have this 360-degree view of product performance. And by that, I mean at the ASIN level, sales, spend, inventory levels, BSR, star rating, content quality, all of it in a singular view. That would be amazing. But there are some challenges that get in the way, right? One is, again, it just requires collection of data from tons and tons of data sources and tables, which is non-trivial. And even when you collect it, there's a need to better organize the data, because if you don't organize the data well and you have got a Power BI dashboard or whatever tool that you're using to sit on top of this fragmented data, everything is just slow. It's very hard to maintain, right? So those are just some of the challenges in executing against a roadmap or a list of questions you might have. And just a few key takeaways before I jump into talking about how are we solving these problems, and also show you a number of use cases and visuals. But yeah, so just a few quick takeaways. You've got more data coming at you than ever before, and in different forms, batch, real-time, clean rooms such as Amazon Marketing Cloud. And then I think an important step to take, if you haven't already taken, is like construct those list of critical questions that you care about the most. Of course, we have some ideas around that, but each business is unique. But at least get to a top 10 list of questions that you're having trouble answering on a regular basis. And as part of that, it is super important that you're on a path to own all your data, without which getting to those answers will be difficult. I call it the service provider trap, as in, look at all your service providers today and make sure that, like, if you decide to not work with somebody, they're not walking away with data. Own your data. And when it comes to data strategy, optimizing is not just about collecting or just building a report. We talked about the 4 areas that take time. You have to think about optimizing across all 4 of those. And then lastly, this might all seem complex, but you can start small. You can start with 3 questions. You can band-aid your way to a solution, but the idea is not to boil the ocean. Aim for incremental but full cycle progress. These are kind of the key things I want to leave you with, but I now want to jump into how is it that Intentwise is helping shrink that distance between raw data to actual insight? Again, we talked about where time goes today and what makes things challenging. And Intentwise goal is really simple. We want to shrink this timeline pretty dramatically for you. And that's what we are doing in terms of all the investments we are making from a product or a service standpoint. So the idea is, if this is your current state in terms of how long things take, our goal is with Intentwise, that's just a lot shorter. But how do we do this? From a product and service standpoint, like there's broadly three things to call out. One is we have a solution called Intentwise Analytics Cloud. I'll actually walk you through exactly what it does and how it addresses the problems I talked about. There's also a solution we've built on top of Amazon Marketing Cloud, which is called Intentwise Explore, where we really simplify how you can extract insights from AMC. And of course, we augment both of these by a services function, where all the way from building dashboards for you to setting up a data strategy or setting up a data infrastructure to ad hoc analysis, we support all of those things. But I'm going to spend a little time talking about what Intentwise Analytics Cloud actually does and how it helps you shrink that time from raw data to insight. And I'm going to switch screens, show you the product, show you some use cases, and then happy to take any questions along the way. This is Intentwise Analytics Cloud. One of the first problems we solve is a problem of data collection. With the amount of data being shared, it is non-trivial for any brand to sit there and build all those integrations. So the way we go about doing this is within our product, we have a concept of My Connections, where one, as a brand, you specify where you want your data to go. That could be a reporting tool, that could be a data warehouse. We support all industry standard reporting tools and data warehouses. If you don't see one here, you can click Add Destination, go in and add your destination. Once you do that, these are all the data sources on which we automatically collect data today, and pipe that into a reporting tool or a data store. You can be up and running within a couple of days across all the data sources. So to give you a sense for the data we are collecting, you've got sponsored ads, Seller Central, share of voice, and content analytics are things that Intentwise collects for you. These are like organic ranking or content quality. Amazon DSP, Walmart ads, Instacart ads, Criteo ads, even Marketing Stream, Marketing Cloud. So these are all the data sources, and activating your accounts, whether it's across geographies or across brands, is pretty straightforward. You come to one of these cards and go through an account activation process. And the moment you do that, the data starts to flow into whatever destination you have chosen. Okay. So that's how configuration works in our platform. And this is how we solve the collection problem. We deal with all of the pain, all of the nuances that come with collecting data. They could be errors in data. Some days data can be late. All of that is handled by us. And of course, we have built an industrial strength collection and distribution mechanism, and we're also SOC certified. We have all the ISO certified. We have all the InfoSec requirements that we need to have. But that's on the data collection side. That's block one of what we had talked about. What are we doing to help you further augment this data beyond just data collection? There's a few things we do. One, on the enrichment side, remember we talked about profitability. Today, what happens is you probably are storing unit costs in somewhere, right? We allow you to store ASIN and SKU level unit costs in our system. And we allow you to assign attributes to each of your ASINs. The idea being this data becomes part of your core data set, and the dashboards can leverage these additional attributes to group and segment data further. But this is how we allow you to enrich your data further. So unit costs, product attributes, and from an advertising standpoint, brand versus non-brand terms, because you want to understand performance of brand versus non-brand spend. But once you ingest what your brand terms are, every keyword record, every search term record is flagged as brand versus non-brand. That's yet another example of how we allow you to enrich the underlying data to make, again, to shrink that time of getting from raw data to insight. We besides just collection and enriching of data, we also consolidate and build what we call pre-aggregated data models. So ecom graph is an example. Remember, we were talking about a 360-degree view of the product. Well, you're going to touch 20 to 25 raw tables to try and construct this view. But guess what? We have really simplified that, and we actually have pre-aggregated data models where a single table within the data we collect has a comprehensive view of all your product attributes and product performance data. Let me show you what that looks like. So here is an underlying table we construct for you, cross-channel table at a ASIN level if you chose, or a SKU level that has advertising data, sales data, and a number of other metrics. The idea here is we take that pain and the time away that is involved in trying to bring together all these fragmented data sets. We are automatically doing that for you. So that's what's called e-commerce graph. With reference tables, these are tables where things like currency conversions or date manipulation tables, these are all part of our data feed. So here is currency exchange data. That way, again, you're not trying to stitch together some fragmented data from, so it's all part of our data pipe. Okay. So we help you with collection, we help you with enriching the data, better organizing the data, and then finally, how do we allow you to build visualizations very rapidly? We have pre-built templates for a whole number of use cases, advertising plus organic sales combined to, and in fact, let me walk you through a few visuals. So here is a view for, let's say, a 3P brand that combines advertising and organic sales data, right? This is a template. We have templates for all the reporting tools, Tableau, Power BI, what have you. You can be up and running really, really quickly. You don't have to build from scratch. Here is a real-time performance view. This is from Rapid Retail Analytics, where you can literally see by the hour glance views, ordered units, so on and so forth. This is us using real-time Rapid Retail Analytics as a source, right? We already looked at item level profitability. Again, in our system, all you have to do is define your product groups and input your unit cost, and this view is automatically available for you to activate. Customer lifetime value. We've done this for a number of brands. There are specific tables. Especially if you're a 3P brand, there's specific tables where you have a hash buyer ID that can be used to construct lifetime value by SKU. If you're a 1P brand, you have to rely on AMC, Amazon Marketing Cloud, but if you've got views for that as well. But you could get to a view of lifetime value and also a distribution of lifetime value and average purchase frequency and so on and so forth. We have lots of other use cases. This is a quick view on subscribe and save. And this is a view on returns. The point is that we are really simplifying the mechanisms of data collection, data enriching, and also giving you a number of visualization templates where you could be up and running much, much faster than any other alternate option. And here is share of voice. So in a nutshell, from an analytics cloud perspective, again, comprehensive data collection and ownership that can be up and running really, really quickly, and you don't have to inherit all of the maintenance costs associated with it or the upkeep with APIs. I say Amazon, but we also now support Walmart, Instacart, Criteo. Again, enrichment of data, pre-built data models, templates, visualization templates that can get you up and running. And of course, the services layer on top, where if you want us to build stuff, we can do that for you, but things go just a whole lot faster because all the underlying plumbing is already in place and nothing has to be built from scratch. I think I will end by saying that, look, our goal remains, we have a singular goal of helping you accelerate, just fast track that path from what we call fragmented data to actionable insights, and really across these 4 areas, dramatically shrink the time so you can get the most value as quickly as possible. With that, I think that ends my presentation for today. We're at a 30-minute mark. Happy to take questions. And then we can certainly reach out to me. I'll just share my email within the chat as well.
Srinath, one question we have is it was pretty specific for the item level profitability use case for ad types like sponsored brands that don't have ASIN level information. What should we be doing as brands? How should we think through that problem? And what does Intentwise do?
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy answer, right? Because sponsored brand performance is not at the product level, right? You have 2 choices. Actually, there's only one choice, to be honest. You peanut butter it across all products. You just have to choose what weights do you assign to spreading that cost. But unfortunately, today, there is really no solution against it. So that has to be accounted for. And then in the work we have done with a lot of brands, I mean, that's exactly what we have helped them do, which is spread that cost across the products based on whatever they choose.
Yeah. Are there other examples of that you can think about, or are sponsored brands the main example?
I think sponsored brands is one. I think a lot of it also, especially around advertising data, to be able to get product level costs, you need to have the structure of your campaigns such that you actually have product level costs, right?
Right.
The challenge sometimes, like for example, DSP, you could have tons of products in a single campaign, then that can mess up your product level view of product level cost. So account structure on ad campaigns does influence, can create problems if that's not a clean structure.
Yeah, it can actually prevent you from getting to that ASIN level view or make it much more difficult. Great. Well, if there's no other questions, I think we're good here, Srinath. So thank you everybody for joining. If there were members of your team who weren't able to make it, we will send the recording out via email. So feel free to forward that to them or just direct them to our website, intentwise.com/webinars.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to go ahead and end this session. Bye-bye.